Well, hey guys, welcome. We're continuing on the journey with Jennie, who is always continuing to strive to learn and grow. Thanks to all our friends that are here joining us. And thanks to Brittany Hodak. You were presenting at an event that I was attending recently. And I was just so excited because your topic was all about customer experience, all about creating super fans. And dang it, if that's not important to realtors. So thank you for saying yes to hanging out and educating us a little bit more on the value, the purpose, and really, what is it that makes a super fan and how can we get more of them? So Brittany, why don't you just share a little bit about who you are, how you got into this arena, and I can't wait for everybody to get to know you. So take it away.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to connect with everybody. I honestly got into customer experience kind of by accident. I grew up wanting to work in the entertainment industry. My first job was as a radio station mascot when I was 16 years old. And then I had the very good fortune that my maiden name was Brittany Jones. And it was around the time that the Bridget Jones book series were starting to come out as movies. And the station manager said, I keep seeing commercials on TV for this Bridget Jones diary thing. What can we do and call it Brittany Jones diary? And I said, well, you're always talking about driving more traffic to the radio station website. What if I just interviewed bands when they came to town? And that could be like my diary, like, what happened when Brittany went bowling with Blink-182 or, whatever. And the station manager was like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do it. Just make a list of everybody you want to see and I'll hook it up with the record labels. And I was like, what? Are you serious? So as a 17-year-old at that point kid, it became my job literally to hang out with rock stars and brag about it on the internet, which sort of like spoiled any chances of me ever having a quote unquote real job. I was like, oh, I'm going to work in this entertainment industry. This is so exciting. This is so fun. I had the opportunity to work at several amazing entertainment companies based in New York and LA throughout my career. I launched my own entertainment company a little more than a decade ago and got to work with some of the biggest superstars on the planet, people like Katy Perry and Taylor Swift and Luke Bryan and Dolly Parton and literally dozens and dozens more, plus a lot of Hollywood movie studios, a lot of professional sports teams, just so much fun. And as I was doing all of that, I started working with more and more brands. I'd always been fascinated by marketing, not just music marketing, but brand marketing and brand loyalty and what makes somebody really identify with a brand. Like, why do I only want to use Crest toothpaste? What happened at some point in my past to make me feel that Crest is the best toothpaste to use? And, it doesn't matter what kind of Crest, right? It's always like ultra whitening, super ultra whitening, super brilliant 3D white, like whatever it is, whatever the new product is. And my husband is like, OG ride or die Colgate, right? And that's one of those things that even after 14 years of marriage, we've like not been able to reconcile it. So we just had to like agree to disagree. And now we have different toothpaste. And so, I was always sort of fascinated by that. Like, what is it about the psychology of brands and the psychology of connection to where we identify with these things that sort of imprint on ourselves and our identity. So anyway, I was running my company. I started doing a lot of work with brands. I started trying to find the answers to some of these questions. Excuse me, guys. And along the way, I had a couple of little kids. It looks like one of them's making a cameo. Kato, say hi to everybody. Hi. Okay, please go back downstairs with Miss Grace. Mommy's on a call. Thank you. Okay, yes, you can have everything in the back. Just close the door on your way out. Thank you. Working from home life, right?
I was about to say, you guys mute yourself, please.
Yeah, no, it wasn't them. It was me. Kato, sweetheart, you're not allowed to be in this room right now. I'm sorry about that. I thought the door was locked. So anyway, I became fascinated with brands. And the more I started kind of studying it, I went back to school to get a master's degree in marketing. The more I started studying it and looking at it, the more I realized that the exact same principles that are true in entertainment are true for everyone, whether you are a realtor or whether you are a Fortune 10 company. The things that make someone care about you, the way that you make people feel, the way that you connect your story to theirs is the paramount thing in getting people to see you not just as a potential commodity provider, but as a category of one. So anyway, to make a long story a tiny little bit less long, I have been obsessed with this idea of fandom and connection and what makes somebody say, you know what, I've found my person, or I've found my product or my brand, and I'm no longer going to be entertaining other options. I'm no longer going to be looking for other solutions. I've got my person.
Well, that is so important as a realtor. I mean, we are helping, Brittany, we're helping people through like their biggest financial investment of their lives many times. And it's a big deal. And we've also found that, it's so much better to retain our clients than to acquire new ones financially. And I'm sure you found that in all your studies, is that having these repeat and referral business they're so much more loyal and it's easier. The transaction is smoother. So what have you kind of found when it comes to, the background you have in understanding our marketing and our mind share as realtors? Like, what would be super important for us to make sure that we're adding into our story?
I love this. So we are going to talk about the formula for creating a story that sets you apart. Right before we started recording, some people were probably on early when we were talking about it. We were talking about the difference between a customer and a super fan. And a customer is somebody who has a transactional relationship with you, where a super fan has an emotional relationship. They feel vested. I like to say super fandom is a two-way street. They care about you because you care about them. And connecting your story to your customer story is so important, because the fact that you guys are on this call today tells me that all of you care about your professional development, you care about customer experience, but you also know from working in the industry that, I feel like sometimes saying you're a realtor is a little bit like saying you're a musician, where you don't know when somebody says they're a realtor, like if they are legit doing this as their career, or there's somebody who a few years ago was like, yeah, I think I'm going to sell some houses, and like took a couple CE credits and passed a test, right? It's like when somebody tells you you're a musician, it's like, okay, do you like have stuff up on SoundCloud, or are you going to like win a Grammy in 2 years? And so I feel like as realtors, you're sort of like having to atone for the sins of others in a way, of the people who sort of don't represent your industry and your profession in the most powerful light and in the right way. So it's a little bit of like, you've got a higher bar almost than if, like it's like almost like you're not even starting from zero. You're starting from like negative numbers sometimes, because of like all of the ridiculousness that exists in the space from people who have not been good stewards of their customers.
Wow, friends, did you all hear that? Because yes, that is absolutely so true. And I'll just guess that you used a musician analogy, since you live outside Nashville. You probably see more of this happening in your area than others. And I just think it's so important that in a world of lots of realtors, how can we differentiate ourselves? How can we stand out from the crowd, be a professional, deliver an amazing client experience? I know that many of us have that as our mission statement, to deliver an amazing client experience. And when you share that with the client at the front end, then you have to actually do it. So what are you finding would be the best way that we are held accountable to our word with our clients?
I love that. Well, I think in terms of accountability, first getting really clear on what your mission is, what is your difference, what is your uniqueness, because it's hard for people, or sometimes impossible for people, to hold you accountable to standards that they're unaware of. So you've got to make sure that you say, this is who I am, this is how I'm different. And I think working in real estate, especially, it's so important for everybody on this call to know the answer to the question, why are you the absolute best realtor to help someone in need right now? Because if you can't answer that question, how is a prospective customer ever going to be able to figure it out, right? Like if you don't know what it is that makes you the absolute best solution for your perfect customer, it's going to be so much harder for them to figure it out. So getting really clear on who you serve. Maybe you love helping people who are moving from out of state because you've moved, several states away from your home on many occasions, and you know what that feels like. You've been in those shoes. You know what it's like to say, like, it's not just finding a new house. It's like new homes or new schools for the kids and like a new job and how we're moving all our stuff across the country. Or maybe you love working with first-time home buyers because you love that spark and that excitement. Maybe you love empty nesters, right? Whatever it is, whatever your thing is, get super clear on the customers that you feel like you were put in this position to serve. Who is it that you want to help more of? And will you help anybody? Of course you will. But once you get clear on exactly who you feel most called to serve, a couple of things happen. Number one, you start to attract more of those types of people, right? Now, it doesn't mean that because you helped somebody, let's say you love helping veterans. Does that mean that somebody who had an amazing experience with you isn't going to recommend their cousin who didn't serve? No, of course not. It just means you're going to get super clear on helping attract more of that kind of customer that you love the most. And when you do that, something really, really important happens. All of a sudden, you don't have to try to compete and win in 30 different areas. You don't have to say, I'm the fastest and the best and the most reliable, and I'm going to, get you to the listing the soonest, and I'm going to do bam, bam, bam. You're not trying to be like a snowflake going out in a bunch of different directions. You're able to say, this is what I am amazing at. This is my superpower. This is my uniqueness. And if you care about working with the person who is the very best at this thing, then I'm your guy or I'm your gal. And then once you have that, to answer your original question, you will become more accountable almost automatically because you've sort of like created the priorities for yourself and you've helped your customer understand what it is that they should be expecting from you. Because again, now you're not trying to like compete and win on these like 9 different things and say, and I'm going to give you the most this, and I'm going to show you the best this, and I'm going to show you the best that. And if you're listening to this right now and you say, well, customers want everything, like they want all of it, what that probably means is you haven't gotten really clear on your avatar customer. So what you're doing is you're attracting a little bit of everything. You've got this sort of like, what do they call it? Like trail mix or Chex Mix bowl of like a little bit of everything. So you're like trying to make the peanut people happy and trying to make the like crunchy cereal people happy and the M&M people happy and everything, instead of saying like, I'm going to go all in on the M&Ms. I'm going to be like the best in the world at serving M&Ms. I'm going to attract a lot of M&Ms, and the M&Ms are going to be so happy. And together we'll like all have a party and melt in people's mouths and not in their hands. That's like the worst analogy I've ever come up with, but
oh, and I love it.
Hopefully it makes sense.
I love it so very much. And this has been a topic for us realtors. Many of us go to trainings. Of course, these people showing up for free, just for fun on a Wednesday to learn a little something tells you that they're amazingly smart, talented people. And the topic lately has been getting really clear on who you are first, knowing your mission and your purpose, and then envisioning your avatar as, the client that you want to attract. So I guess my question is, because this is a big deal for lots of us, we know how to be a realtor. We know how to help people through the process and through the transaction. And how can we tell more people, whether it's through social media or our emails? Like if you guys will go to Brittany's website, you can see her story. She tells you why she loves this, who she is, and what she shares. And so, Brittany, how can we do that? Where do we start with all of that stuff?
Well, I love this question. And I would say the place you need to start is like where you're at right now. So we know that it costs 6 to 7 times more to attract a new customer than it does to sell something else to an existing customer. That doesn't mean a whole lot when you're talking about people where you're like, okay, I've got customers who aren't going to buy another house for maybe 8, 10, 12 years, right? So what do? Well, first of all, you stay in contact with them. You make sure that you're providing value beyond just selling that house. And second, you make sure that you're giving them a reason to want to refer their friends and families. Again, I said before, it's like, I don't know if or anybody else has done any research on this, but I gotta believe if you ask like, in general, the American population, like what percentage of you know someone who's a realtor? It's like a very high percentage, right? But it's back to what I said earlier about like, you know, you also know someone who plays guitar. Like that person might not be Ed Sheeran. So like, just because you know a lot of people who can like play guitar doesn't mean you don't want to get Ed Sheeran tickets and go to his show. So you need to position yourselves as the one with the superpower at the thing that you do, because all of a sudden, like when you're Ed Sheeran, people want to work with you. You go from a commodity to a category of one. So in terms of how you grow that and how you share it, it starts with creating really amazing content that adds value. And when I say content, like nothing is more cringy than seeing people try to like chase every trend and be like, let me make a bunch of smiling videos where I'm pointing at stuff because this is what I think I'm supposed to do right now, right? Like, unless you are that person in real life, like do not do that. It is so cringy. Nobody is going to be like, oh, now I want to buy a house from you because you're clearly with it, right? Like, don't try to like do things that aren't aligned with who you are. Do not chase trends. Do not, like, I saw a statistic the other day. I wish I had saved it for this call, but it was like realtors post more on social media than like every other profession in the United States, and they have the least engagement. So not only are you doing the most work, you're getting the least amount of benefit because people aren't paying attention. So don't share 15 things that are dumb and add no value. Share one thing that actually is helpful and impactful to people. And don't always, like, I'm sure you guys have seen the memes of like what it would look like if other industries promoted what they did the same way as realtors do, you know, where it's like a funny, it'll be a doctor like flashing dollar signs and he's like, yo, just saved a life, #blessed, like just finished the surgery. You've got to find a way to make your story relevant to your customers' stories beyond just the fact that you can sell them a home. What are your interests? What are your passions? How do those overlap with other people? If you love gardening, awesome. Guess what? A bunch of those people that just bought houses from you probably don't know how to make beautiful flower beds. They would probably love to get tips from you. They would probably love to see your advice. You know what else? A bunch of those people who just bought houses probably like baking, cooking, like things that you love, things that you have interest in, how to, you know, remodel something, how to refinish something, how to flip, you know, those like flea market shows where people go and they get a chair for like $1.46. And then they like, you know, wave a magic wand and all of a sudden it sells for like $3,500. Like people love these things. Like, what is it that you can do to share your uniqueness and your talents so that people like want to follow you and want to stay in touch with you? Because if you think like a buyer, right? Or somebody who's selling their house, do they like need to hear from you that like you can help them sell their house or find a new house after they have their house? No, right? So they're going to like tune that out until they need it again. But if you're sharing helpful information, if you're saying, hey, by the way, make sure you sleep with your bedroom doors closed, because if there's a fire in your house, you're going to have much longer to escape safely if your bedroom door is closed instead of open, and sharing things like that, that's when people are going to say, you have earned the right to continue to be in my social feed. You have earned the right to continue to show up in my email inbox once a week or once a month because you're adding value to me. I always say the right amount of time to talk to your customers and your prospects, whether it's on social media or hopefully it's on something that you actually own. So on your website or your email list, because we know social media is rented, not owned. And we want to drive people to where we own those relationships. But the exact right amount of time to talk to your prospects and customers is exactly as often as you have something to say that adds value to them. Not any more frequently than that. Not because it's Tuesday and you send an email every Tuesday, not because it's Black Friday and you like read somewhere that, you know, on Black Friday, you have to like send an email to everybody. Exactly as often as you have something valuable to them is how often you should get in touch with them and share that message. Because every single time you post or every single time you send an email, you're giving people you're like reminding them how easy it is for you to be filtered out of their life, right? It's like every single post somebody can like hit unfollow, right? Like somebody can hit unsubscribe from every single email. So before you're like, yeah, let me make a bunch more of the stupid like videos, like, is that what you're going to like live and die by, of somebody like continuing to want to see your content? And I'm so sorry. I promise I'm not trying to hate on anybody for this stupid thing. It's just like, I don't get it. I'm like, what, how has this ever added value to anyone ever? It's so dumb.
Well, I'm so grateful that you gave me permission to not do those stupid videos, because I was feeling like, inadequate because I wasn't performing at those levels. But I just like this part, I'm going to have to rewind, and all of us need to play this part again. She just dropped so much goodness inside of that. I took so many notes, but what I heard you say is, first, you got to be you. And you got to be real, and you need to be authentically you. And so I've always found that the most engagement that I get, and I attempt to not post more than one time a day for sure, that's just my thing, is that when it has to do with me as a human, like with my daughter or my cute dogs. I mean, that's what matters most to us in life, hopefully our families, and being in our community and giving back and being out and about and supporting other businesses. Now, one other thing I wanted you to I need to say out loud, because so many of us live and die by our Facebook. And I personally had my Facebook hacked and deleted over a year ago. And it was the worst day of my life until I got mad. And I got mad because I was relying on this rented space to have all of my content and my life. And I know many of our friends over time that may come back and watch this later also have had the same issue. And so my reminder for this, and Brittany, tell me if you agree, is that, have your own website is where you have your content. Then you can share from there, or point people there, or have email addresses, having a database so that you can contact them, and instead of you just doing the little and hoping that they see you, right?
Absolutely. And sorry, for some reason, my computer is like not charging, even though it's plugged in. So I just got the, like, you're about to shut down notification. Yes, 100%. That is so true. Like, and I'm so sorry, Jennie, that you got your Facebook hacked, but I've heard from so many other people that exact same thing happened, where they're like, I don't know what to do. And, Facebook groups have a lot of power. So I don't want you to think there's anything wrong with running a Facebook group. Like, it is a great way to keep people connected, especially if they care about your things. So like, if you're the person who always is the first to know about fun community events happening, or if you're the person who always like has, the inside intel on something else, like by all means do that. But as Jennie said, use it as a tool. Like I always say, imagine you're like throwing a party at your house and it's going to be amazing. Social media is like where you go to recruit people for your party. Like you go to the other parties and you're like, you stand around and you're like, this party's kind of lame, but you know what? I heard there's a really awesome party happening like just down the street, right? Like you're trying to get people to those destinations that you own so that you can invite them back to all the parties that are happening in the future. So don't be afraid to engage on social media, but also know that, it's just temporary, right? Like if 50% of people decide to leave Facebook a year from now and you haven't invited them to that space that you own, you're going to be in trouble.
Dang, that's good stuff. All right, let's move on to your ebook that everybody should download if they haven't already. And they can go to your website and look on resources. And this is where I pointed y'all so that we'd have something to talk about, but I figured we've already filled the space. So this is awesome. So Brittany, you mentioned in your ebook, it's called WAVE and it's an acronym. So what does WAVE stand for and what can we learn from it?
Thank you. Yes. So you guys all remember, you think way back, you go in the way back machine with me. We're going to go all the way back to like high school psychology class. You guys remember Maslow? And he had this hierarchy of needs. And you had to like meet the needs on the bottom before you could move to the needs on the top. The Superfan Wave is very similar. So WAVE is an acronym. And the reason I chose the word wave, other than the fact that the letters worked, is because waving is like something we do all the time, right? Like you wave hello, you wave goodbye. Maybe you're like me and you wave on Zoom calls, even though I'm like that meme that's like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And then I still do it. Like I'm a Zoom waver. It's, I'm working through it. But anyway, we wave in real life, hello and goodbye. I've said before, customer engagement is something that you've got to do all the time. It's not a set it and forget it. It's not a once and done. You've got to make your customers feel like you love them all the time. So WAVE is an acronym that stands for welcomed, appreciated, validated, and engaged. And as I said, like Maslow, each one builds on top of the one underneath it. And we all want engaged customers. We want that emotional relationship, not the transactional relationship. But here's the thing, and honestly, I see this a lot, not just with realtors. I don't want it to feel like I'm picking on you guys, but I see this a lot with people in a lot of service professions where, like, if you go to their Facebook page, not their brand profile, but the one they're actually using, they don't seem all that welcoming, right? Maybe they're telling jokes about people who are different from them in some way. Maybe they're sharing memes that they think are like so funny, making, like all the ones that are like, oh, like you showed up and asked me, like you don't understand why you have to pay like $100,000 above asking price or whatever. It's like, don't make fun of your customers. Don't make fun of people. Don't be mean. Don't be saying things that are divisive or vitriolic or unnecessary. Like, don't do that, because even if you say that's my personal page and this is my professional page, no, right? Like that line does not exist anymore. There is no such thing as separation between personal and professional anymore. The minute you get on the internet, like you are your personal brand. Every single thing that you do or say is part of it, right? Think about all of it could be used as exhibits in court or in church. Like, don't do things that make people feel unwelcome, because if you do that, your credibility can just be like instantly gone, right? Like vanished, poof. And so one thing that I will say is knowing how many people in this space are like terrible people. Clearly none of you guys, because you're here on a Wednesday afternoon trying to like learn how to be even more successful at your job. But like those people will like eliminate themselves out, right? It's like, those are the people we don't even have to vote off the island because they're like jumping into the water. So knowing that you need to be extra careful, like every now and then I'll think of something I want to post it. I want to tweet it because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so funny. But then I'm like, would this make somebody feel like I was putting a wall between me and them? And if so, then I don't post it. I don't share it. I don't say it, because I never want somebody to think that I'm like mean or hateful, or that I see a difference between, my background or beliefs or experiences and theirs, right? Because I know every single one of you on this call likes to cash checks from people whose political views are the same as yours, but also very different than yours, right? Like if you're getting that like all cash $200,000 over sticker price offer, you don't care who they voted for, right? You don't care what podcast they listen to. You don't care like any of that, right? So like, don't make it seem like you do. Don't already say, I'm going to take my customer base and try to make it like even smaller by making someone feel like they're unwelcome. So the first part of the Superfan Wave is for making people feel like it's a safe space, that you want them to come be a part of your world. You want to show up and help them and be that guide that they need for this very, scary, overwhelming, important, confusing life purchase that they're contemplating and trying to find that right person to help them with.
I try and mute myself so that in case of emergency, like, a dog barking or something, the life at home is amazing. So what I'm hearing with that is we have to stop and think. And over the past couple of years, realtors, what we thought was going to be like the, sky is falling in the real estate world actually has been most of our best years we've ever had. And there's also been turmoil in all of the political arenas of life, locally and are all around us. And so I see this, Brittany, happen all the time. I've been in real estate for 21 years. I've learned to have really thick skin, and I've learned to keep my mouth shut. And that's how you can succeed. And so I see newer agents thinking they're helping the consumers on social media by venting about an example or inside a transaction, and really they just come across like a jerk. So that's just for anyone watching.
Yeah, it's almost like, would you want to go to a doctor if you knew that doctor was like saying, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe this lady and like what she came in and requested it? No, right? Because as a customer, that not only makes you feel for that other person who it seems like has been almost like violated in some way, but it also makes you think, well, I can't trust this person. If they're going to talk about another customer, they're going to talk about me. Because as customers, we have no, usually like we have no choice but to take what we see at face value, right? Like people are busy. People aren't going to like dive in. Like if they see what looks to them like evidence that you're a jerk, they're not going to like deep dive and say like, well, were they just having a bad day? They're going to be like, next, right? Like, thank you, next. Like nobody is going to like say, oh, maybe they're a really good person, accept this. So with every single post, you have to just imagine that that's the one that people are going to be, you know, judging you by. And if you do things right, your customers will feel appreciated, which is the next letter of the Superfan Wave. And appreciation is something that, you know, a lot of professionals who work in service environments, like if you think of the totality of your customer's journey as like before, during, and after, a lot of people spend a hugely disproportionate amount of time and energy focused on the during. So like the first conversation you have with somebody on the phone or over email or whatever, that they're looking for a house or they want to list their house through closing day, like that's the during. But that's where so much of the competition and so much of the noise is. What about the before? What about the after? That before is how you differentiate yourself, making sure that you're treating everybody who comes to any of this space that you're owning or renting online or social media, anybody who meets you at an open house, making them feel like they matter to you as a person, like you care about them as a unique individual human who like, maybe they'll buy a house from you one day, maybe they won't, who cares? You don't care about them because of like the MLS number they represent. You care about them because of the person that they are and the uniqueness that they inherently have as like a neighbor of yours on this planet. So like the before and then the after, like making sure that, again, it's not like, you know, I really need to come up with like a business way to say like hit it and quit it. Cause I said that in a call the other day and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so terrible. But like, if anybody has a better way to say that, that doesn't sound that bad, please put it in the chat, because nothing is coming to my mind. But like, don't hit it and quit it. Don't like sell them a house and be like, peace, like on to the next house. And then like follow up with them 5 years from now when you're like, hey, so like, you still liking that house? Like, you ready to sell it? Make sure that you're continuing to provide value, that you're continuing to help them. Like if you know somebody just bought a house, you probably like, and it's their back to before, like if you love first-time home buyers, like how many first-time home buyers do you think don't know about like home warranty insurance? And when it expires in a year, like if they should keep it, if they should not keep it? How many people do you think need to like be reminded of how taxes work, right? And of how like mortgage insurance works, like all of those things. You can be that trusted resource. You can be that advisor who doesn't just focus on that during part, but says, I got you. I got you before, I got you during, I got you after. I am your person. I've got everything that you need to make sure that this giant, enormous investment that you're making, both financially and emotionally, is in good hands. Like, I got you.
Oh, girl. So listen, here's the thing is so many of us realtors, we finish up the transaction with our client. And then we think, oh, you know, they're fine. They don't need me. I'm good. And here's the thing that I found is, what do the most consumers think about realtors? What do they think we're out for? And when we don't call them afterwards and check in and say, hello, how's it going? You getting unpacked? Do you need anything? What are we proving to them that we were out for?
Yep.
So when you guys ghost, I love it because we got some words down here for you. So just ghost.
Yes, some of those are so much better. Thank you.
A turn and burn. That's a great one. Yeah. Turn and burn. I love that. But that's exact follow up. I mean, you guys have a system that after closing, you have a reminder because you're, moving on and you're helping new people, and that's great. But we have to continue to come from contribution. So thank you for the reminder on making them feel appreciated after the closing day. And that's how we get the super fans and the repeat referral business, right?
Absolutely. And the next letter, validated V, is also something that's before, during, and after. So never making somebody feel like they, are like, should be embarrassed by how little they know, right? Never making somebody feel bad about not knowing what they don't know. I'll tell you, we're all friends here, so I'll share this, even though it's embarrassing. I lived in Manhattan all of my adult life. So I did not know how buying a house worked, right? And in Manhattan, it's you've got co-op fees or condo fees or whatever, in addition to your rent. So a few months after we moved into our house, and we're in an HOA, so we pay, I don't know, whatever it is a month for our HOA fee. And I was talking to my husband, and I was like, hey, so after we pay off our mortgage, how much does our HOA fee increase by? And he was like, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, after we don't have a mortgage payment anymore, somebody's got to be getting more money from us, right? Does the insurance go up, or does our HOA fee quadruple or something? And he was like, I don't even understand the question you're asking me. And I was like, I'm saying what happens when we pay off the mortgage, when we own the house? And he was like, we own the house. That's what happens. And I was like, so we're going to just have thousands of extra dollars a month. We're just it's just ours and we own it. And he was like, do you really not know how buying a house works? And I was like, no, I never had to think about it before. I just assumed that when we were almost done with our mortgage, somebody was going to be like, great news, you're almost done. Not so great news, we're quadrupling that HOA fee and hiking up your insurance and your homeowner property, whatever, because we know. So your customers just don't know. A lot of times, they're not doing this every day. They don't, they're not in your industry. They're not reading the trade associations, the publications, they just don't know. So validating their questions, their concerns, their fears, all of those things. And, some of these letters sort of blur together a little bit. Like I said, it's Maslow, it's going up the ladder. One of the things that I want to make sure that we talk about, just because it's a pet peeve of mine that I see, is terrible, terrible, terrible self-centered closing gifts. And if any of you feel like you've been guilty of giving the bottle of wine with your face on it or whatever, there's another free thing that you absolutely need to download on my website. It's not even behind an email. You don't have to give me anything. Actually, Alex, you can just drop it in the chat, please. It's top gifting ideas, gifts that actually connect your story with your customer story, that aren't just you making it all about you. So for instance, I always say you can use one of your hobbies or interests to create an amazing closing gift that sets you apart, but make it about your customer too. So for instance, if you love Lego and you, want to say thank you to a family that, probably also is into Lego because they've got little kids, have somebody make a custom Lego of their house. You can go on Etsy and there are people who will take the bricks and make something that looks like somebody's house and put the little mini figs out in the front yard. You can do that. Or you can take a picture and turn it into a Lego piece of art where every little pixel is an individual thing. If you love puzzles, take one of the listing photos and make a puzzle of the new home for the people and use it as a closing gift, right? Or have somebody paint a beautiful watercolor painting. There are so many things that you can do that are thoughtful and meaningful, and somebody will want to display it in their home or keep it forever or share it on social media and tell people about it. But do not mistake a gift basket with your face on it as a gift, because it is not. It is an ad. If you are putting your face on it or you're writing your name on it, that is not a gift. It's an ad. You would never give your sister-in-law or your friend or a colleague a gift and write their name on it, right? If somebody got me a phone and wrote Jeff on it and was oh, I want to make sure she remembers who it's from. What? But we do that professionally, right? We're let me make sure my name's on it. Let me put the logo on it. So sorry, that's just my little like vent session up on the soapbox of, again, like what do you love? Like, do you love to cook? Make an apron, but instead of your logo, say, nothing tastes better than new home cooking, right? And like, give them cookie cutters and say, join my Facebook group and my email list because I share new recipes every single month, or like whatever. You can connect your story to theirs in a way that's not like, here's a knife with my like MLS number on it.
Brittany, you don't even know. I'm certain that everyone listening to this is like, oh my God, that's brilliant. And here's what my brain goes to. I know the value of this. This is so important. And it's not even about us. It's about them. And my brain likes to have systems and consistency. So then I go, uh-oh, how am I going to make sure this happens with every client? Some of us help lots of families in a year. So what would be some hacks or tips that we have a plan in place? Would it be for all people that it's similar or personalized or what?
That is such a great question. And I love it. The first thing I would say is everybody needs an Alex in their life. Alex on my team is amazing. I am very much the like big idea person. Alex is the, hey, Brittany, you promised these 6 things. So like, how are we getting them done person? So first I would say, get yourself an Alex. Second, I would say the brilliance of creating something that's repeatable but feels personalized is that it makes it so much easier. So like if you give somebody a puzzle that's got the picture of like their front door and it says, the Jones family out in front, or you give them a welcome mat that says the Jones family and has their address, that feels very personalized to them. But for you, it's just a step on your checklist or a step in your CRM that says, I'm going to go make that thing. And you can make that same thing. Like you can make 200 families puzzles in a year. And none of them are saying like, oh, I got the same thing 199 other families got, because it's personal to them, because it's their house or it's their name or it's their kids represented in the Lego minifigure, like whatever it is. So you can find ways to do the same thing over and over and over again, but still have it feel magical because it's a watercolor painting of their house or their kids or whatever. My realtor who sold me the house that I live in now, I call her my fairy godmother now. Like she's amazing. I see her all the time. She's become a very close friend of mine. I've sent her, I don't know, like 7 or 8 customers at least, probably more than that. And like however many they have sent to her. And she's amazing. She also, it's so funny. She like, I like bought a house on a whim, which is like a whole other story we probably don't have time for, but she showed me like 6 houses one day for fun. And I was like, I want this one. Like, let's buy this one. And she was like, cool. Like, what do you like about it? And I'll find more when you come back with your husband in a few weeks and we can look at them. And I was like, no, I want this house. Like, how do we buy this house? Like today. So she spent like 3 hours with me before she sold me a house. But what she did that was so amazing was she helped us with everything. We moved from out of state. When we arrived, not only, was the house like immaculate, she'd had somebody like come in and clean it, but she stocked the refrigerator with things that she knew we would love. Like she went on our social media. She saw me talking about how much I love Dr. Pepper. She saw what my husband was talking about. So when we got there was stuff in the pantry. There was stuff in the fridge. She had bought like candles for us that said, it was like one of those state candles. It was like, welcome to Tennessee. She had seen a picture of me in a Cole Swindell shirt. And so she got me this welcome mat that said, hey, y'all. And it was like the first thing we saw when we got there. So like doing those things that are personal touches that aren't overwhelming, because once you do it once, you can repeat it again and again and again. One of the gifts that I suggest in the free download that Alex gave you guys all the link to is a guest book. When I got our house, I was like, I want a guest book that like everybody who comes and stays here can sign. And so now 6 years later, it's so fun. Like we just had guests this weekend and I'm always like, don't forget to sign the guest book. Don't forget to sign the guest book. It's actually right here because this is the guest room / upstairs office that normally is a little easier to keep the kiddos out of. But like this book has notes from everybody who's been at our house since we moved in. And it's so fun because it's like this little time capsule of people talking about, seeing my kids when they were first born or whatever. So anyway, like there's a website called Dayspring Pens. They sell this amazing set of like a leather journal and a pen, and you can get them both inscribed. don't put your name on it. Don't put your logo on it. Put the address of the family, or put something funny. Like my last name is Hodak. Like you could put Hodak Hotel or whatever. Like if you find a gift that works for you, that you know your customers are going to appreciate, or like 2 or 3 different ones, say like, you know, in the various like customer avatars that you have, like different gifts for each one. It's not something that you have to do from square one every time. It's just saying, okay, like I'm going to, you know, order this gift or that gift, and you just repeat it, but it feels super custom.
Okay. I love it so much. And thank you. You affirmed the gift that we give our clients is actually a welcome home mat with their name on it. So I think we're in
amazing.
We're good there now. So I think everybody got some really good stuff. And so our engaged.
Engaged. Yes. So that's what we want. We all want those engaged customers. And again, the power of the Superfan Wave is that each one builds on the one before it. So if you're following all the steps, if you're doing everything right, if you're having that two-way street of super fandom of, you know, I care just as much about you as I want you to care about me, you're going to create those people who feel an emotional relationship with you, not just a transactional one.
Oh my gosh. So much goodness. One thing I want to say, and then I'm going to open it up. So you guys be thinking of your ahas or additional questions relating to anything we've talked about here today. I know you guys are going to raise your hand and share and ask Brittany some good stuff, but something I heard you say, Brittany, that we talk about a lot in our world is you said that you didn't know really how it worked, like when you paid off your mortgage. And to me, we have a simple solution. It's called that we should at least reach out to our people by phone conversation 4 times a year. And so if I was doing that properly with you, I would call you up and I'd say, how's it going? Life good? How the kids? You need anything I can help you with? Just in general, I'm not selling you on a new house. I know you're good. And in that, you might go, well, you know what? I was wondering, how does it work when I pay off my mortgage, right? Like if I'm going to consistently stay in touch with you, you're going to have your mind triggered for answers, for questions that might come your way. And also it could also people tend to, when I ask you about life and family and work, what are you going to likely ask me about? Life and family and work. And so that's when the conversation of real estate can come up, not in a selling or telling way, but in a natural conversation between 2 people. All right, I see some hands up if we're ready. Hey, Jordana.
Hello from Pittsburgh. Good afternoon.
Hi.
Thank you so much, Brittany. And what's that?
I said, it's so nice to meet you.
Oh, nice to meet you. And I have an 11-year-old and 13-year-old, 2 dogs and 2 guinea pigs. So I get it with the background noise. I wanted to ask you a question about, I've heard people doing this before, putting the food in the fridge and leaving it. Like, I like that idea, but there's just so many food allergies now. And you just have to be so careful, dietary restrictions. So I'm just curious, what if I wanted to do that, what do you guys suggest is the best option?
And that is a great question, Jordana. And I'm sure some of the people on this call have some great suggestions. So anybody who's got insights, please pop it into the chat. What I would say is, so there's 8 big allergens, and those are the ones that are always listed on the back of the bag. So it'll say like may contain milk, soy, wheat, nuts, tree nuts, whatever. So you can avoid those, but you're right. There are so many people who are like staying away from sugar, staying away for this or that. The big ones to always avoid are alcohol, because you just never know if somebody doesn't drink for any reason. Nuts are like a really, really big one. If you don't know somebody's dietary restrictions, you can absolutely ask them, right? So like in this instance, the realtor knew what we loved because she like went on our Facebook pages and saw it. So she wasn't buying like the same 10 things for everybody. Although she did have like, there was like bottles of water and stuff like that, that would be like, you know, pretty universal. But it was like, she bought snacks, like there was like ice cream in the freezer and things like that. So if you want to get super specific, you can always ask people about their dietary restrictions, and otherwise just try to stay with like those safe things.
And I'll add,
oh, sorry.
Yeah, Jordana, I'll just add to that. So, we have kind of an intake form with our clients. Whenever we first start chatting with them, we say, hey, will you please fill out this form? You're a VIP. We want to make sure that we're serving you at a high level. And in that, we ask what their favorite celebratory beverage is. And we have red, white, bubbles, coffee, tea, soda pop. And so if you're gathering data, you've already asked, so what their like favorite restaurant is and things like that.
That is such a great idea. And then by the time like 3 months or 6 months later, or however long it is, like they've already forgotten they told you that because they had to get like all of the other things. And also, Jennie, something you said before, I love that checking in with your customers quarterly. Another thing that if you guys aren't doing right now is so beneficial is all of the questions that you get asked, like on a regular basis. Like that is content. Like if somebody asks you the question, somebody else has that question too. So you can create just like quick 2, 5, whatever minute videos of you answering those most common questions and then put them into playlists. So you can have a playlist that lives on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or wherever you want it to live, Vimeo, it doesn't matter, and have it be like the 10 things every first time home buyer needs to know. And okay, like closing day just happened. What's next? And, hey, make sure you know this about the home inspection before it happens. Like whatever it is, you can create that content. And then when somebody has a question, you don't just send like, if somebody is like, hey, I have a question about like, I just got this note in the mail that somebody like bought my mortgage. What does that mean? You can send them a link to that specific video. And then also say, oh, by the way, like, watch everything in this playlist because you might, like there's going to be other stuff that you are curious about too. Like when people ask me this, they oftentimes want to know that. When you do that, when you create that evergreen thought leadership content, not only does that save you tons of time because now you don't have to like answer the question for 50 different people about like, oh, well, I worked from home all last year because of COVID. Does that mean I get to like write off part of the cost of my mortgage on my taxes? Like, I don't know, that's probably a bad example because I'm sure you guys would be like, we're not tax professionals, but like whatever it is.
But I can point you to one.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, like once you create that content, you can use it again and again and again. You can send it to your clients. You can send it to prospects. You can share it on socials. It's like, you can use it again and again and again and again.
I love it. Hey, Edna, what do you got?
Oops. Okay. Thank you so much, Brittany. I mean, my mind is just blown right now. So thank you. My aha. So before Jennie, there's a before Jennie and after Jennie for me. You would never find me talking on Zoom, just never. I don't like to be on video. So after Jennie's classes, I started doing 2 videos a month with Viral, and the content is just, it's making me bored. I'm bored with it. And it's like, how are my people going to just keep watching these videos? But I had a huge aha with what you said earlier, having some kind of content. And I'm thinking in my mind, I wrote a lot of notes, but like having a hack, like a home hack at the beginning of each video that says, hey, did you know you could use this for your home? And then go into my video of whatever it is, whatever content I have. But anyway, thank you so much. That would just really hit home with me.
Oh, well, thank you so much for saying that. I'm so glad that you took all those notes. And Edna, I hope I get to see you in a few weeks in Oklahoma City. So I will make sure you get the information about that event. And what I will say for everybody, like, if you feel like your content is boring, it probably is. Like, this is not a dig at Edna, but like, if you don't want to watch it, nobody else is going to watch it. So the key is to start with that story. Find something that you want to talk about that isn't boring because it does add value. Because I mean, there is no such thing as too long. Sometimes people are like, what's the right length of content? And I'm like, people will listen to a 400 episode podcast about a crime that happened 30 years ago because it's fascinating, right? Like there is no such thing as too long, only too boring. And if something is boring, it's because it's not connecting to your audience. So before you create any piece of content, ask yourself, exactly who is this for? Like, who is the person that I am making this video for? The second thing you're going to ask yourself is, what do I want them to take away from this? Like at the end of watching this video or reading this blog post or whatever, what is the takeaway that I want from them, right? Like, what do I want them to do? And then the third question that you ask yourself is like, is this the right time? Like, does this matter? Right? Like you might have, you know, an amazing piece of content that you want to share that you're like, it's for this person. It solves this problem. It tells them this. But then if it's the first day of like Russia invading Ukraine, like it's not the right time. Like, don't share it today. So like, make sure that you know exactly what that content is that you're creating, who it's for, what you're helping them with, because if you try to create content that is for everyone, it's going to be right for no one.
Oh, so good. And Brittany already told us the answer to this. It's when you guys go on an appointment with a new seller or a new buyer, they're going to ask you lots of questions and you're going to share with them your natural blink on the response. So then get in your car and pull out your phone and go, hey guys, I just wanted to share this with you. I was just talking with some clients and here's the question they asked me. So I thought I'd share the response that I shared with them with you. And there's your content. And you know, at least one person had that question because your clients just asked it. All right, let's go,
Okay.
Christy. We're running out of time.
Okay, hey everybody, just bear with me. I'm battling a huge migraine today, so I'll try to make this easy. So I love the part about validating your customers and your clients, because I think that's really big. And I try to take in all of their emotions when buying or selling. And I had to sell one of my clients' mom's house, and her mom had just passed away. So of course she was very sentimental towards the property and crying, and I want to sell it, but I don't want to sell it. All this hard stuff. We finally got to close to the close, and she was just breaking down. So I spent $100 on a healer to come over, like an energy healer. And, you know, we did the whole routine with the candles and all this stuff. And afterwards, she said that that was a personal journey for her and made her feel 100% more better about selling mom's house. So in my opinion, that created value to her, that I actually listened and took in consideration that this is mom's house and it's very hard. Oh. And another one, this is weird. He was real big into the supernatural, ghosts and things like that. And I 100% promise you that I have walked into a haunted house with this buyer, because the whole thing was super weird and he was really big on that. So again, once we bought a house, he kept telling me, I don't feel anything here. I feel like the house is clean, but I had someone come in and do a house cleansing for him. And he just thought that that was so much value to that he shared that on his Facebook, and we got a lot of interaction on that.
Oh my gosh, Christy, I love both of those stories. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm so sorry you have a migraine. I know firsthand how horrible those are. But what I just heard was there is such an opportunity for you to create content around how do you know if the house you're looking at is haunted, right?
Yes,
maybe even invite that guy back, like make it an ebook, make it little downloads, make it videos. Like you will attract people from all over, because I guarantee you, like if you guys don't know the website Uber Suggest, it's UBER suggest.com, and you can type in any search term and see how many people are searching for anything at all. So like you can see how many people last month typed into Google, how do I know if a house is haunted, or is my house haunted? And so you can use that to start to get intelligence around like how many people are asking the types of questions that you think you could create content around. But I love both of those stories, Christy. The fact that you already have an energy healer like on call is amazing. You 100% need to be creating content about like what to do if your house is haunted.
Love that.
Like all of the things.
So great. Thank you, Christy. Hey, Rayanne.
It's Uber Suggest, Rashonda, UBER suggest.com.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Brittany. Hey, Jenny. Hey, ladies. I just had a quick question about keeping in contact and reaching out to your sellers that have moved out of the area versus, of course, it's, you know, kind of easier to keep in contact with buyers and sellers that are still in your area. Is there a different process or different things to do with sellers that you sold their house and they, you know, retired to Idaho or wherever that are not necessarily in the area, but still keeping that contact?
Yeah, hey, Ryan, that is a great question. Thank you so much for asking it. What I would say is if you have the capacity to separate them, if you're not going to look at it and say, I am so overwhelmed trying to maintain one list, there's no way I can have multiple lists. It is a really good idea, because you don't want to stop talking to those people, because if they lived in your area, that means they probably still have ties there, right? Like maybe they still have colleagues there, or they have family there, or their kids might want to move back, or they might want to move back. So I wouldn't have them out of your database, but you're right that it doesn't make sense to let them know about things that are happening specifically in your zip code or in your area. So while I wouldn't remove them from your like database in general, if you have the capacity to separate them out, yes, it is a very good idea. But a lot of times what happens is people don't take the first step because they like can't visualize the 20th step. So I don't want anyone to hear like, oh, I shouldn't start a database and I shouldn't be sending emails because I don't have the time to maintain it. Mm-hmm. So using like the anniversary of when somebody bought their house, or using a certain holiday throughout the year so that you know every year you're going to go in and sort of like list sweep or list clean up a little bit is one way to do it. You can also, like my dad used to run the customer service department at a car dealership, and he would send people recipe cards. So like one of the things you got when you bought your car was like a recipe kit, like a holder. And then they would send postcards in the mail every single month with a new recipe that was tied to like, you know, barbecue for July and whatever. The reason he did it wasn't just because it was like something in their mailbox every month. It was that as soon as somebody's address changed because their mail was getting forwarded, it returned to him. So he was always able to keep up with his database because every month he would get a stack of postcards back that were like returned to sender because they had, you know, limited, it was like past the amount of time the mail would get forwarded. So there's also like clever things like that you can do to help make it a little easier. So yes, if you have the capacity to speak to different people about different needs, you should do it, but nobody should like use that as an excuse not to at least get started with conversations and reach out to customers.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, Brittany, I'll tell you what, as a realtor, the worst thing ever is to get return mail from a past client. That means we didn't do our job and stay in touch because we didn't know about it. So I heard so many hacks, techniques, ways to think about our people. Brittany, you've hung out with us for an hour. You've shared so much good stuff. How can people best continue? Did you just finish up? You're finishing up a book or something. So that's cool.
I am. Yes, I will make a completely 100% shameless plug and say my book does not come out until January, but I am completely biased and think it's pretty good and will add a lot of value. So if you feel compelled to pre-order it, please do so. Here's the cool thing about Amazon pre-orders. It says right now it's $27, but it will be less than that. Like they won't charge you until it ships in January, and Amazon always lowers the price. So it'll probably be like $17 or $18 at street date, although it's totally worth $27. In my humble opinion. Totally. So if you feel compelled, please go ahead and pre-order the book at the link below. Also, thank you for downloading the W.A.V.E ebook. For those of you who did, you will continue to get emails from us about once a week. So I hope you find value in them. If not, let us know, like hold me accountable. You guys can write back and be like, hey, I don't know about this. Not sure. So sorry, that was like a long rambling response of yes, absolutely. You can pre-order the book. Absolutely. You guys can opt in to be part of the newsletter and hear from me every week to hold me accountable, to make sure that I'm adding value. And Rianne, on that note, like something that I thought about, Jennie, you could make like a guide for you that's like a moving checklist, right? Because people are moving perhaps from a home when they're buying a home from you, but then also when you're like selling your home and moving. So if you let your customers know, like, hey, even if you're not going to have me list your house, if you're moving, like make sure you reach out so I can give you my whatever step checklist, or make sure you don't do these things. So if you have content that's like the 5 things everybody forgets to do when they move, or like whatever, like create some sort of content that you can own around that so that people have an incentive to reach out to you before they move, because they're like, oh yeah, I want to get that thing. And then like, you'll know if somebody's downloading that on your website, you'll be like, oh, well, they must be about to move because they downloaded my, like, you know, if you're leaving the state of Kentucky, here's what you need to know, or like whatever.
Oh my gosh. I don't know about you guys. I have so much energy. I'm so pumped up. We got to make sure we have our story clear and correct with who we are, being authentic. And we need to create content that's valuable to our people. Does that sum it up, Brittany?
100%. That was great. Thank you so much. Thank you for everybody for hanging out. I know I went over.
We're so grateful for you. So grateful.
Thank you, Rashonda. I'm sorry. I made you second guess the Cutco. I have so many Cutco knives. And it's like, some of them are so sweet that people have personalized, but I personally, like, I'm afraid of big knives. Like, I'm that person who buys the watermelon cut up because I get freaked out with the big knives. I make my husband do it. I think it's because my brother made me watch The Shining when I was like 7. But I don't even touch the big knives.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, thank you, Brittany. Thank you to all y'all that showed up. Of course, I'll have this saved and you guys can come back and watch it again later. And we're just grateful. We'll see you soon. You guys have a great day. Bye now.
Thanks, everyone.
To the wave.
Thanks for the pre-orders.
Yay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.